You listening to Trigger Seattle podcast.
Today, I'd like to open a conversation about Bitcoins. I didn't believe in Bitcoins myself because vulnerability is crazy. It's going up and down 75% every couple of years. I have a client years ago who looking to buy a property and he decided to reinvest his funds in Bitcoins. And a few days ago, I was checking price for Bitcoins and I found out it was almost $40,000 for one. In my mind, I have thoughts, I have to immediately call this guy and find out if he have it or not, if he sold it or not. And I called him. He told me, yes, I'm keeping, I still buying. I have numbers of dozens of them. So I'm not sure how many he's have, but he's have a lot. And I decided to open this conversation with you, Oleg, because back in 2018, he was one of the first lenders who used Bitcoins for funds for down payment for the client to purchase property in Washington state. And it was news everywhere. I know you also buying Bitcoins as well. You have a number of dozens of them as well. I'd like to pick up your mind today about Bitcoins and not just Bitcoins, about cryptocurrency. What do you think about it? So where are we going with that?
So yeah, Oleg, that's the funny part is that was my real first introduction to the crypto community, and I'll explain what I mean by that. I always knew about Bitcoin. I remember when it first came out, it was almost like a joke. Everybody joked about it, and it was like worth like pennies. It was kind of a joke. Like, you have this digital currency. No one knows who really created it. The guy doesn't exist, all that. And so no one took it really seriously. And then all of a sudden, we all know it exploded. And all these people that got in early had all this money, and so it was very common for people to try to use that as a form of a down payment. And so one of my clients was trying to do that, and we were making it happen. And I didn't realize how big of a deal it was because up until that point, no one's done that before. And so now all of a sudden, I go from knowing nothing about Bitcoin or just what it is to being invited, and I'm on all these different panels as a Bitcoin expert. Like here I am sitting on a panel with all these people, and I'm known as the Bitcoin expert in the lending industry. And people are asking me, questions about how I see Bitcoin affecting lending long term and all that. And I'm sitting there with all these all these Bitcoin experts, and we're talking about Bitcoin and everything. And one thing I realized, it was like this big aha moment for me as I'm in this room filled with people that just want to know more. And I'm sitting there and I was talking to one guy and I'm like, hey man, between me and you, what do you think this is going to end up? Is this all fake? Is it all just going to crash and go to zero? Guy's like, no. He's like, I truly believe each coin will be worth between $500,000 to $1 million.
Wow.
And I'm like, there's no way. Like, you really? And this is like when it's like at $18,000, right? And I'm like, there's no way. And so after the event, I come up to him and I'm like, you got to explain it to me. Like, how do you justify your assessment?
Yeah.
And he gave me his explanation and it completely made sense. The fact that you could run the whole world off of how many Bitcoins were created. And when I'm saying Bitcoin, and I'm not talking about cryptocurrency in general, I'm talking about just Bitcoin, how you could cut them into a crazy amount of pieces and all that. And just all that, like it all made sense to me. And I remember leaving this event as a crypto expert that had no cryptocurrency whatsoever. And I'm like, you know what? I should probably buy a few, right?
Okay.
And that was kind of the beginning, right? And as soon as I started looking into it, as soon as it started becoming a thing, that moment I thought to myself, I'm like, this is the new internet. Mm-hmm. Like back when the internet first came out, and it was a .com bubble and everything, and it was the .com companies. I was way too young at that time to participate in that, but now this is what crypto is. And so I remember doing a lot of research. I didn't know what is it, how does it work, and a lot of it still doesn't make sense to me. What made sense was I saw how many people believed in it. And still, you talk to people, and some people say it's going to zero, and you have some people saying it's going to $1 million. I think the one thing we could all agree upon today is Bitcoin is not going anywhere, right?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, there's a ton of other coins, and those they're called altcoins, right? So if it's not Bitcoin, it's an altcoin. There's some that are very, very successful, and there's others that are not. And so to me, when I look at it and I started investing into it, I remember investing into it around the 12,000 mark. And then everything kept crashing and going down and down and down.
Yeah.
And I remember telling my buddies about it. I'm like, this is actually a really good time to buy. They're like, didn't you just buy at 12? I'm like, yeah, and I'm rebuying it at 6, and they're like, well, did you sell? And I'm like, no, I'm holding. Like, because again, in my mind, I'm thinking one day this might be worth $500,000 to $1 million per coin, right? Yeah. Because you can't create more of them, right? You got to find them. Apparently,
how many can create? Like,
I believe there's like 20 million coins.
Okay.
And I think 18 million of them have been found or mined, right?
Mined already.
And so there's only a few left. But the crazy part is there's like 20% of the Bitcoins that were created are in accounts that no one has access to.
Really?
Yep. So you forget your password, doesn't matter what, you ain't getting your crypto back. So you got to be really, really careful.
This is crazy.
So yeah, I mean, I remember I bought all the way down in the 3 range. And I remember one time, I bought in quite a bit at 5, and then it went down to 3. And my friends were like, "You got it! Like this is like you're crazy! Like it's just gonna go. It's nothing. It's gonna go to nothing." And I remember I'm like, you know what? I'm buying in again. And ever since then, it seems like it's been on the up. Of course, during COVID, it went down for a few days, and then it went back up. I personally believe Bitcoin is it's the money of the future. It's here to stay. When you look at countries that are trying to develop their own, even with the whole stimulus package that was passed back during COVID, I don't know how much people know about this, but there was actually something added in there, and they got removed, where the U.S. was going to create their own cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
It got removed, but the point is they added that in there, which just shows you that at the end of the day, digital money's here. It's going to be here. In my opinion, it's the digital gold. I think Bitcoin is gold in the digital world. And I think that at the end of the day, I mean, should you buy right now at 40,000? I mean, I don't know. I mean, for all we know, it might go down to 15.
Yeah.
But I think that when you look at a 10-year mark, right? Like in the next 10 years, where will it be? I think your chances are pretty good that it's going to be above 40,000.
Who's a common buyer for crypto in the US right now?
It's typically a younger buyer, right? Like that's kind of what started it. I remember seeing somebody write this on a forum. They said, we believed, so they believed, and because they believed, we got rich. And it was super funny because I read that and I'm like, it's so true, because if you think about it, like the younger generation jumped on the idea. It wasn't like some of us old guys were like, hey, I can't see it, I can't feel it, I can't touch it, so it's not real.
Yeah.
With the younger generation, they don't need to see it, feel it, touch it, right? I mean, at the end of the day. And so they're the ones that jumped on it first, started using it. And when they say they believed, that's what has really driven the price this year of cryptocurrency. This is the first time can't say this first time ever, but this is the first time that major institutional investors, different hedge funds, are now putting their money into cryptocurrency, whereas before it was not even a thing. With all the institutional investors pouring money into cryptocurrency, now we're seeing so much more money being pumped into it, which is what has helped drive the market. Obviously, why are they doing it other than it's because it's here to stay, right? Which backs up what I said a little bit ago. Mm-hmm. In addition to that too, we could all agree that with how much money the government's pumping in stimulus, with how much money the government or the interest rates being so low, it devalues the dollar. So you got to put your money somewhere. Now, again, going back to, why do the younger generation, buy Bitcoin versus the stock market, which, a lot of them do, but they're just more excited about crypto. And I'll tell you why. Like, no one gets excited about a 1%, 2% gain, right? It's just, they just don't, right? Like Bitcoin, when you have it go up, or cryptocurrency in general, when you have it go up, 1,000% or 2,000%, it's just sexy. Like that's what people are drawn to. But what a lot of them don't fail to realize is, hey, while it's going up and you're the buyer, there's also the people that bought too high, it dropped down, they couldn't stomach it. They sold because they couldn't see the negative whatever or drop or whatnot. And so as many people as got super, wealthy and rich off Bitcoin, just as many went broke off of Bitcoin. And so when you talk about your story about your friend, and I remember when we got him pre-approved, and I remember he's the guy who was like, nope, I'm going to buy a home for cash because I'm going to put all my down payment money into Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Now we're looking back at him and saying he's a genius. That was a great move, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, too, if the opposite would have happened, right?
Yeah.
And it went to 1,000 and he bought at 6 or 7 or wherever he bought, and it went to 500 or whatever, would look back at him and say, he's an idiot, right? So I think the key in all this, when people invest, I think the key is diversify, right?
Yeah.
Have some crypto, have some real estate, have some stocks. But the reason why so many young people flocked to Bitcoin, it was because of how sexy the gains were.
Yeah, that's a very interesting thought. A lot of banks actually try to develop cryptocurrency, for example, stablecoin, because many banks try to get to the blockchain ledger systems. And many banks understand that. And hedge funds now, government agencies who control currency, they announce for banks that the banks can be custodians for cryptocurrencies and develop them and use them for financial institutions. So this was like big announcement just like end of this year. Many people realize, okay, Bitcoin's not going to go anywhere. So it's actually real things. Bitcoin's going up and down, but I think with the time, millions of people going to buy, and eventually probably going to go more than $40,000 for sure. Again, Bitcoin is not a productive asset like Warren Buffett says. It's just assets. I feel like a government adopting this cryptocurrency, and this is probably going to be our future money because have a lot of advantages, right? So no maintenance, more security, and less vulnerability for those cryptocurrency. I think it's very interesting where we're going with that, because in the future, I don't think we're going to have dollars anymore.
Another thing, when you look at different countries, like third world countries, a lot of them, the people don't have that much faith in, whatever their currency is. Like if you look at Argentina, for example, just because of the government can manipulate the money and all that. The beauty with cryptocurrency is that it's like an equalizer between the people and the government. And you start seeing these third world countries start utilizing more and more cryptocurrency for day-to-day transactions. And while it's not a usable asset in some places, there are other places where maybe not Bitcoin in general, but like Dash, for example, is used in a lot of South American countries, and it's becoming more and more common and more of what the people want over there. So I think there's going to be certain ones that you're going to start seeing. In my opinion, when you say it's going to become our new currency, it's not going to happen right away in America or in Russia or in China. It's going to happen in these third world countries and slowly make its way in after it's proven and shown that it's effective, that it works, the people believe in it. I think that's where the transition is going to happen. How long is it going to take? Who knows? I mean, the thing is, when you look at it, most people, you're right, they hold crypto in America to trade it.
Yeah.
It's that's why they hold it. But at the same time too, in other countries, they're holding it, not just holding it, but they're actually using it because of what's going on with their financial system, with their government and everything else. And so I think that also creates lots of opportunities for those people looking in and saying, well, I don't want to pay $40,000 for a Bitcoin, but I could buy Dash for 110, and it was funny. I was watching Dash. I feel like I always tell people solid advice and then I don't follow through and I kick myself for it. So me and my buddy are sitting there the other day and I'm like, if I was going to buy crypto right now, I'd buy Dash. And they're like, well, why would you buy Dash? I'm like, Dash is like, it's got this and that and this, and in the third world countries, they use it, everything. And it's funny. It was like 95 at that time. And there was like a spike overnight and whatever, and it went up to like 195. Now it went back down to 130, but still there was a spike to 195. It just shows you that at the end of the day, the demand is there for as long as you're buying an altcoin that's being used, I would be careful to buy altcoins that have no use to them. Like you said, they're just, pump and dump scenarios where people are just trying to pump up the price and then just dump it when it's high. But I think that crypto, it doesn't just end with Bitcoin. There's so many other coins that are used. It's starting to become, I think 10 years from now, we're probably going to see a lot fall off, a lot of coins fall off, and a lot of the ones that are being used, you're going to start seeing them used more on a day-to-day, just like regular currency, so to speak.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Oleg, for opening up this very interesting conversation and talk about cryptocurrency with me today. Thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely, Oleg. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.